First, lawmakers demanding an investigation into what was potentially the world's first coronavirus super spreader event. The Washington Post reports more than 9,000 athletes attended the Military World Games in Wuhan, China in October 2019, including 280 from the United States. Many of them complained about COVID-like symptoms 2 months before China even acknowledged the virus's existence. It comes amid concerns the coronavirus leaked from a research lab there. Here's what Texas Congressman Michael Burgess told Maria Bartiromo last week.
Will there be any accountability for the CCP allowing this deadly disease to escape its borders and covering it up?
My opinion is there just simply has to be, and whether that's done on the trade front, whether that's done on some type of remuneration that has to occur. With this illness, different from SARS-1 20 years ago, remember there was a jump from a bat to a civet cat to then to people. This one, there was no intermediary, which really does point to the fact lab manufacture, lab release, accidental, on purpose, that will have to be determined.
Kansas Republican Senator Roger Marshall wrote to Secretary Xavier Becerra about whether the Department of Health and Human Services was aware of American athletes falling ill after returning from the military games in Wuhan. And he joins us now. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. What do we know, but what do we want to know? Michael Burgess there that we heard is a doctor, but candidly, China has not really been forthright in what's going on.
You know, you're right, Jason. And I know if you'll go back to your days as chairman of the Oversight Committee, you can smell a cover-up. And this smells like a cover-up. Every day the timeline gets backed up. You know, realizing that the middle of January, the Chinese, the World Health Organization were saying there was no person-to-person transmission. Now, we know people in the United States had positive antibodies in December of 2019. We know that the Wuhan was starting to cover up this particular incident as well. In October 2019, thousands of soldiers from hundreds of companies gathered in Wuhan, China for a military Olympics. Several weeks later, many of them developed symptoms. Additionally, they described Wuhan, a city of 11 million people, as a ghost town. So really, since at least October, the people of China were covering this up. And what I want to know as a senator is why didn't the CDC check into this? Why didn't the HHS check into this? Why wasn't intelligence working on this? Were they part of the cover-up? Do they have some guilt in the situation as well? So I'm just stunned to find out this new information every week.
Now, the Biden administration is warning that we may never quite know with certainty what's happening. But what are they doing, if anything, that you can see from your perspective as a United States Senator to actually push the Chinese regime to actually being more candid and forthright with our investigators?
Well, certainly not enough. They do have an investigation underway, but I'm not expecting them to find anything that we don't already know. Jason, what this reminds me of is, you arrest the Godfather and all the witnesses start dying. And in this case, the witnesses, though, are the genomic banks that we have setting out there. So in February of 2020, the NIH erased 500 genetic sequences from the bat lady that she was storing in the NIH laboratory bank. Going back to 2019, in September, the bat lady erased a bunch of viruses from the WIV laboratory bank that we had access to. So the witnesses are all dying. There may be something, though, on the cloud server that we can dig up. We're finding bits and pieces everywhere. But what we have to do is start holding China accountable. We can sanction them. We can seize their assets. But what they need is public shaming, that we have to shame them, and not just the United States, but we need other countries to shame them as well. We need to start bringing in product lines, manufacturing jobs back to the United States, do all those things to publicly battle them.
What sort of confidence level do you have in the World Health Organization? China made a big deal trying to get into the World Health Organization, but now that they're there are a lot of people that are concerned about the conflicts of interest that they have.
Well, unfortunately, the World Health Organization has a very bad reputation, that they've been bought and paid for by China. The leader of the World Health Organization is a handpicked person from China. China's not dumb. They went into Tedros is his name, and went into his country. They loaned him money like a loan shark loans you money, and they got him this position as head of the World Health Organization. They certainly have failed, and this is why we need whether it's the Quad or the G7 or the G20, but we need multiple nations looking into this and holding China accountable, and then starting this shaming in some way. They should be ashamed that they invented this bioterrorism weapon. They should be ashamed they leaked it from the lab. They should be ashamed that they covered it up. They should be ashamed they can't even make a vaccine right now. So this public shaming has to come to fruition.
So the concern is that the Biden administration is giving this some lip service, but not actually doing anything. Listen to what the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, had to say about this when he spoke with Maria Bartiromo recently.
What should be the accountability that you'd like to see as a result of the CCP allowing this deadly virus to escape its borders? And why hasn't Biden brought up the origins of COVID with Xi Jinping now 6 months into his term?
Yeah, as you know, Maria, after the election, I wrote an op-ed calling China our #1 national security threat and talked about, as the person who's seen more intelligence than anyone in the country for the past year, just how clear it is that they are not just an adversary, but someone that wants to supplant us as the world superpower. And my hope was that as we shared that intelligence with the incoming Biden folks, that they wouldn't just have tough rhetoric on China, that they would have tough actions. And clearly that's not been the case.
Your reaction, Senator?
Well, Jason, your listeners need to realize that China wants to own the world. That is their goal right now. And as you pointed out many times, they steal $500 billion of intellectual property from us every year. 90% of the counterfeits and the fentanyl that come into our country are made in China. It's maybe exponentially worse than I expected when I got into the House, and now the Senate as well. We do have to hold them accountable. It's going to be painful. It's going to be painful for this country and for the world to say, look, we cannot do business with you when you lie, when you cheat, when you steal from Americans. So we're going to have some really tough love when it comes to dealing with China. Focus on, again, bringing these supply chains back to the United States. We have to start by doing that yesterday.
Very quickly, Senator, before we go to commercial break, the EcoHealth Alliance that Maria Bartiromo has talked about extensively, our government gave them an awful lot of money. There's a lot of suspicion there.
You know, exactly. If I could call one witness to our bipartisan healthcare health committee, I would like to call Peter Daszak, who heads that. We do need to follow the money. It wasn't just money from NIH, but also the Department of Defense was giving him tens of millions of dollars as well. And really, they were researching bioterrorist weapons. I think that this coronavirus, this COVID-19, fits exactly into a man-made virus. You know, when we look at this virus, it looks like something that Frankenstein would have made. So we got some deep
Senator,
rabbit holes to dive into.
You're right. Follow the money. All right, Senator, stay right there because Democrats are aiming to expand social programs and pay for child care, health care, and climate change with tax hikes. Will they be able to push it all through using reconciliation? We'll dive into that next with the Senator. Stay with us.
Do you think he has the support of all Democrats? Will he be able to push this through reconciliation regardless of what the Republicans say?
Well, I think it's going to be a long, hard slog for them to try to increase taxes by this much on the American public for things that really would go way beyond what I would think is in the scope of government. There are so many liberal programs in here, very expensive. The whole green bad deal with the recyclable cafeteria trays. I think he's going to have a hard time doing it, and it's not going to happen quickly.
That's Wyoming Senator John Barrasso on President Biden's spending plans and challenges they face in Congress. A nearly $1 trillion infrastructure deal struck by a bipartisan group of senators has some potential, but Democrats also want to include a lot of items from a $715 billion transportation and water infrastructure bill passed by the House last week. We're back with Kansas Republican Senator Roger Marshall. Senator, are they going to be able to pass this through reconciliation? I mean, how do they justify all these numbers? Because they keep adding the trillions upon trillions.
Yeah, Jason, first of all, you better grab your wallet because Joe Biden's administration wants in that wallet of yours, wants you to write big checks to them. But look, I think they've spent most of their political capital on this. You know, a saying my dad taught me, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And the Biden White House has now fooled us 3 times. And they threw a bunch of senators under the bus, including Democrat senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. You know, Joe gets most of the ink, but Kirsten's one of the sharpest people I've met in a long time. She wants to be known as a maverick in that John McCain model. She's been able just to balance. I've seen her take notes, take some conversations with 4 or 5 senators at a time, and then I would speak to her about a deep healthcare issue, and she'd be able to recite the whole thing back to it. So I don't think Kirsten and Joe and the moderates in that party are going to be happy about the way they got through under the bus here, and they're not going to be happy about raising your taxes.
Senator, candidly, one of my concerns is Republicans seem to worry about the debt and deficit, but only when they're in the minority. So if you look back over the last 10 years, when it was Obama Biden, if you look at the spending money and the base budget, that number is really up nearly more than 50%. This is the domestic base spending, doesn't include any of the other stimulus and all the other things. That's the 10-year number. And then if you look at the debt, it's basically doubled in that 10-year period. And look, Republicans had control for some of those years. And the concern is, we talk about how much more we're going to spend, but Senator, when are we going to actually have a discussion about what we're going to cut and curb back?
Yeah, well, Jason, certainly as long as Democrats control the White House and control the House and the Senate, that conversation's not going to happen. They've already borrowed, $2 trillion this year, and they want to borrow another $6 trillion. So when I came to D.C. 4 years ago, I thought we had a plan. Much like turning around a business that's upside down, the first thing we had to do was grow the business. So we cut taxes. Despite cutting taxes, we actually grew revenue for the federal government. And then you have to start dialing things down. And where are you going to pick and choose? I've yet to have anybody call me up and say, hey, I want to cut my government subsidy. It's going to be a tough conversation to have. This is the problem that keeps me up late at night. And whether you want a strong military, strong schools, strong roads and bridges, this future of the balanced budget is what's going to impact it more than anything else. So I agree completely, but it's a tough political conversation to have. I think it'll take a second-term president with a lot of confidence.
Well, Senator, I think you're right. When you actually cut taxes, the revenue to the Treasury went up. But if you don't couple that with cutting spending, then you continue to exacerbate the problem. And Americans are going to feel things here real soon. They're also feeling it at the gas pump, where price of gas is basically $1 higher than it was a year ago. But Senator, I wish you nothing but the best this Independence Day. I hope you, your family, and the good people of Kansas have an opportunity to celebrate like the rest of America, because you know what? This is still the greatest country on the face of the planet. But we got to figure this one out.
Thanks, Jason. Great to be with you. Happy Independence Day to you, your family, and all your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Senator, appreciate your time.